rare trade between two high-end contenders. Think about that. You had two teams could face each other in the World Series, making a trade with each other for two guys that could factor in a late-inning situation. You don't see that all that much. Checking in with Scott Lauder here from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and appreciate him jumping on board right now. But I guess this is the first move. Proactive this year, Scott. They decide not to wait, and they go get this move. What does this move kind of signify? That they're going to be busy, another trade coming, and they go out and get that right-handed bat in the lineup?
Yeah, Mike. So I was working late last night on a story that's posting over the weekend, and the Randy Arozarena trade came down with him going to Seattle, and that made me start to think, boy, I wonder whether some things are going to shake loose now in the days leading up to the deadline. I think a lot of us felt like it was going to go right down to Tuesday at 6 p.m., and it's still going to for a lot of the deals that get made. But I do think when you've got an early deal or two, and there was another one last night with A.J. Puck getting traded from the Marlins, I think that when you have some of that, then it does tend to shake some things loose. And I don't know whether that was the case here. It is highly unusual that two contending teams do make a trade at the deadline, as you said. I think one of the reasons why Austin Hayes' name hadn't really come up was because people like me, who know that the Phillies are interested in a right-handed hitting outfielder, are asking more about people like Lane Thomas, people like Taylor Ward, who are not on contending teams. We're not asking about Austin Hayes because you don't normally think a contender is going to subtract. But in this case, look, the Orioles need late-inning relief help. The Phillies needed a right-handed hitting outfielder. Dominguez had kind of fallen down on the depth chart here. Austin Hayes had fallen down on the depth chart there behind some younger players. So it made some sense when you start to put the pieces together. He's going to be a platoon outfielder with Brandon Marsh in left field. It does, however, kind of give them a little bit more flexibility. If they decide, Rojas is not going to be the guy in center field, they could always still slide Marsh over to center, play Hayes in left. Hayes has been an everyday player in the past. So it makes them a little bit deeper, makes them a little bit more flexible. They maybe can do some things. And yes, it does serve as kind of, I think, a precursor to a second trade, which I think we felt like was coming anyway. They were looking for bullpen help anyway. I think that this only amplifies that need. Maybe they get two relievers now instead of one. But I think we were all pretty sure that there would be a move coming for a reliever, and I think that this only reinforces that.
Right. So, a little background on, he did start the All-Star game last year. So this guy had a hot first half of the season. Not that right-handed power bat, 16 homers. He got 3 this year. But he does hit lefty. So I think you said you see him kind of platooning in left field as opposed to playing left field every day, and Marsh and Rojas platooning in center field?
No. I think the plan at the start is going to be that Hayes and Marsh will platoon in left field. You'll see Hayes play against lefties. You'll see Marsh play against righties. But what I was saying was, I think that the fact that Hayes at other parts of his career, at other points of his career, has been an everyday player, I think it allows them to look at center field a little bit differently as well. Like if Rojas if they determine that Rojas can't play every day, that it's just not enough with the bat, you could always slide Marsh over to center and play Hayes in Hayes in left. So it gives them the ability to do that. That is not the plan, as I understand it, at the outset. The plan is to have Hayes and Marsh platoon in left.
Scott Lauber from the Inquirer. Phillies make a trade today. Austin Hayes is here. Sir Anthony Dominguez is part of it. Pache, I don't know that anybody is broken up about. Obviously, they took a swing with Pache. It didn't work, partly because he couldn't swing. But now they basically move on from him. But the Dominguez part, as you kind of hinted at, they've got to – you would think they have to replenish that. Some of the names that you wrote about today in your story at the Inquirer mentioned like closers. Are they looking for someone that will be the ninth inning guy or just another arm that they can mix and match?
So, I'm sorry, ask that one more time.
Are they looking for, you mentioned a bunch of names in your piece today, Estevez,
Yeah.
Scott. Are they looking for a guy to pitch the ninth or someone that they can just include and mix and match with what they have?
Well, Rob Thompson's MO has been to really not anoint or designate a closer and an eighth inning guy, a ninth inning guy. His whole thing is, I want as many guys as possible who can pitch in the eighth and pitch in the ninth, and not everyone's going to be available every night. So the more guys you have, the better off you are. And I think that that's kind of the idea. If it's Estevez, if it's Finnegan, these are guys who are closing for their teams right now. Does not mean that they'll close for the Phillies. They will close sometimes, not all the time, most likely. And, look, that's the way he's been running his bullpen for the majority of the time that he's been the manager. And I think that's how it's gonna go. There was a period of time last year where Kimbrel was really kind of the ninth inning guy. And I think if you look back, a lot of that had to do with the fact that Alvarado was hurt around that time. But it didn't start that way. It didn't start with Kimbrel being the ninth inning guy, and it didn't end that way necessarily with him as the ninth inning guy. And if Craig Kimbrel, who's got over 400 saves in his career, is not your automatic closer, I don't really think anyone here that they bring in is going to be an automatic closer.
All right. Where do they sit with Alvarado now in your mind? Is this just like kind of, hey, a little mental break, or is there some legitimate worry there?
I think they think it's more of a reset. He's struggled a little bit, so you back off him a little bit, maybe put him in lower leverage situations. You saw him blow that save last Friday night in Pittsburgh, and then come back on Sunday in a lower leverage spot and pitch well. So I think it could be quick. I think, especially given the fact that that Soto has struggled and that Kerkering is sort of struggling right now throwing strikes, I think it could be quick. They could go back to Alvarado a lot sooner maybe than they thought initially when they decided to do this, but I think they view it more as a reset than a real concern. He is who he is. He's going to go through spells where he doesn't throw strikes. That's kind of been him throughout his entire career. So I think it's just a matter of, and to the Phillies' credit, they've been pretty good since he's been here about resetting him when he gets out of whack. So I think that's really where they're at right now with him, is just a reset and get him back going in the late innings again.
I'm going to end with this. Hoffman and Strahm, both All-Stars. I don't know that anybody had that on the bingo card at the start of the season.
Right.
But do they feel that those guys are those guys, or that there's going to be a drop-off, or are those two guys they think can be eighth and ninth inning guys in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think they think that they can be those guys. I'm not so sure right now if I'm Rob Thompson that I'm not, closing with Hoffman almost all the time. I mean, here I just said, right, that he doesn't really subscribe to designating one guy as the closer. But at a time when Alvarado is struggling to throw strikes and Kerkering is all of a sudden struggling to throw strikes and Soto is clearly not the guy at the end of the game, maybe Hoffman should get more of an automatic ninth inning look, regardless of who's at the plate. Saw the other day where he liked Hoffman against the lower part of the order because he wanted him against righties rather than lefties. Well, Hoffman's getting everybody out right now. So I think Hoffman in particular is definitely a piece in the late innings, whether that's eighth or ninth. And I think Strahm, has the potential to work his way even further back in the game than he already is. Saw him get a save the other night in Minnesota in the ninth inning. So, I definitely think that those two guys are going to be big pieces in that bullpen, no matter what they do between now and Tuesday.
All right. Big series in Cleveland. Tough stretch of games. Scott, we appreciate the time, man.
You bet. Thanks, Mike.